This episode's brought to you by NordVPN. More on them later. Today we're making this badass leather map inspired by The Hobbit. And at the end, we're gonna give it away to one of you. Stay tuned. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. So here at the end of the year, we've been doing kind of a fun thing where we let our Patreon vote on things we've done in the past that they want us to revisit. This not only lets us do something nice for our patrons, but it also gives us the opportunity to retouch something we've done before and see how we'd go about it a little differently. And one of the ones they voted on was this leather map here. And this original one, I did the whole map of Middle-earth. I'm a big old Tolkien nerd, if y'all don't know. But yeah, I did the whole map of Middle-earth and I tooled everything in. So this time around, I thought it would be fun to actually do another map from that world and do the one from The Hobbit. Specifically the map of Thror, King Under the Mountain, the map that leads them into Erebor, the Lonely Mountain. And as I said at the forward, I'm going to be giving this thing away to one of you. So definitely stay tuned to the end to see how to win that map. All right, without much further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into this thing. Now on that last map, because I wanted to tool it, I ended up using a veg tan leather. I just kind of wet the whole thing, traced the image into it. It was a whole to-do. Just check it out if you want to see how I did it. But the issue with that map is because it is made out of kind of a stiffer leather, I don't really like to roll it up at all. Because once it's rolled up, it's a real pain in the ass to get flat again. That's why for this project, I actually chose this milled leather here. This is also a veg tan, but it's been roughed up enough in the process that it gets this real fabric-like kind of feel to it and just drapes nicely. And it being veg tan, it also gives me the opportunity to like color it if I decide to go that way. Now to get the image of the map, I'm actually using this like my very own copy of The Hobbit. I've had this from like the early 2000s. I've read it just over and over again in my regular rotation. Just one of those real comfort books for me. But obviously I don't want to be giving y'all a map this small, so I needed to scale it up. So I just ended up measuring out 2 times the size of the map that I have here, laying it out onto my leather, and then cutting it out, which turned out to be 52.5 centimeters by 40.5 centimeters. That's right, we're not using freedom units for this measurements, and there's a really good reason for that. You see, since I didn't want to have to print out a large version of this map and try to somehow get it onto the leather, that means I was either freehand drawing everything, which can be a little bit dangerous proportion-wise, or I'd actually measure everything in relation to everything else on here and try to make that scale correctly, which is what I decided to do. And I don't know if it was just a grid that was used in the original artwork or what, but like all of these distances, like this distance right here on the border, and then the distance from the border to the little like rows here, all of those were exactly 3 centimeters. So it just kind of worked out. If I'm doubling everything, then from the edges that I make my border on, I'm gonna be going 6 centimeters in, and that's gonna be double. Super easy to place everything from there. So that's exactly what I did. I started by going in and measuring the main elements of the map. Basically how far away that border is from the edge of the page. Then this little key section here with the hand, like how far apart from that border does that one start? Using these measurements, it was really easy to just kind of go in and lightly draw everything out with a pencil. And just an FYI, by using like a nice soft pencil, I'm able to leave a mark on that leather without leaving like an indentation, right? I just need some guides to follow. I don't necessarily like really want to dig into this thing. Cool, so once I have those main elements of the borders in, I can actually use those as my jumping off point to measure everything else on the page. So for example, the center of that compass rose is, as I said, exactly 3 centimeters from that border, which means on my leather, I'm marking out 6 centimeters from that border. Using this compass, by the way, really helped with this, because then I could just kind of set the right measurement and then put it onto the map where I wanted to. And honestly, doing this, it was really simple to kind of scale this whole thing up while maintaining the proportions for everything. Now, a quick note about what I'm doing here. I am remaking this map, and I'm trying to stay as true to it as possible at first. And then I very much want to add my own flair to it, right? I don't want to just necessarily copy it like verbatim. Well, let me preface that before other Tolkien fans are going crazy in the comment section here. All the writing, the places, all of that, for sure, those have to stay accurate. But on the illustrations, like, I am not this illustrator, I am me, and I want to add my own artistic flair to the thing. And if I can be just kind of up my soapbox for a second, I think there is an issue, like I am very much part of this fandom. I do think there is an issue where we're like almost not allowed to touch things and put our own stamp on it. Even Tolkien, with a lot of the work he was doing, was paying homage to other things that came before it. So as far as I'm concerned, and this is very kind of Silmarillion accurate, this is just me adding my voice to the chorus, right? And actually by doing this, I was able to discover like a lot of cool things about this. I'll discuss it more at the end, but like the map in itself, it's kind of cool. Now, as I'm measuring this out and laying down the artwork for this map, I got to contemplating. Let's say you're making your way towards the Lonely Mountain and you had to stop and, I don't know, check your bank statement. You don't want some filthy orcs stealing your information and identity thefting you. They're known specifically for that.
Looks like
Identity thefts
back on the menu, boys.
That's where today's sponsor, NordVPN, has you covered. NordVPN is a virtual private network that can keep you safe with just one click, making sure your information never falls into the wrong hand. Not only that, but their Protection Pro can also give you protection from malware, phishing scams, ads. True story, my great aunt Marabella Took, on my father's side, fell for one of those orcish scams, lost all of her savings. Not only can it prevent you from being a fool of a took, but it removes all barriers from you viewing whatever content you want, no matter where you're traveling, or how spicy it is. All you do is tell it to say you're in a location where this stuff is accessible, and then they have like Palantir or something that connect to it and make it work. I don't know, I'm stretching the Tolkien stuff at this point. If you'd like to give it a try, you're in luck, because NordVPN has a special offer just for this community. Get our exclusive NordVPN deal plus an extra 4 months by going to NordVPN/Skilltree. And there's literally no risk. It's got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So yeah, check out the link in the description below and be safe on your travels out there. So I just steadily marched along, measuring every piece of everything, giving myself nice landmarks on exactly how long stuff had to be or where it fell onto the map space, and then doing my best to draw it all in. Okay, so as I said in the last map, I tooled everything in place, but I'm not doing that this time. Instead, I'm gonna be doing the entire project using this wood burner. I got this one here from Michaels. It comes with a bunch of different kind of tips, but they have a whole bunch of options of like varying price ranges if you want to get into it. This one's a little bit more expensive, but it has like a variable temperature, which I found when you're working with leather especially is super important. Seriously, this thing was only on like half power throughout most of this project, because any higher and it would just burn straight through the leather. Just make sure to try it out on a scrap piece of leather first so you kind of know the feel of the thing. And with that, I just got to it, tracing over the lines that I had drawn with the pencil, trying to follow everything as closely as possible to at least get like the layout done first. I did most of the blocking out with the ballpoint tip that I had for this thing, but when it came to actually writing the text, I ended up using the shader and using just the very tip of it. I just didn't like how chunky that ball one like ended up burning everything. Whereas with the very tip of that shader, I'm able to get super fine detail, and I think the text actually came out pretty good. And I'm not gonna lie, this part was a lot of fun for me. It was just super relaxing to just kind of sit down and like legitimately draw this thing out. First in pencil and then back over it with the wood burner, which is like instant satisfaction. This is also really fun because this map was very kind of like simplistic, which isn't my usual style, but I enjoyed kind of getting into that almost like medieval aesthetic, right? Like the little dragons and stuff drawn on it aren't awesome quality, but very much in line with things that you would see in the margins of like a medieval text or something, right? I just really like that detail. I thought it fits the world and the theming very well. I did notice one thing about the map though, and in looking up, I think it was in like Tolkien's original drawings of it as well. But it does say like West lies Mirkwood the Great. But I think in the time when this map would have been created, like in Thor's time, it would have been called Greenwood the Great. Am I wrong? Is that wrong? I'm pretty sure it would have been called Greenwood. There's not Mirkwood until the necromancer comes in and taints the whole thing. Y'all let me know down in the comment section if I'm misremembering that, but I feel like that's wrong. Which is fine because The Hobbit came first, right? This book came first, and there's a lot of lore that wasn't laid out ahead of time. I just thought that was kind of a neat little extra thing, unless I'm completely wrong, and then like, I don't know, chew me out in the comment section. Okay, so once I had everything kind of blocked out where it would go, this is where I decided to add my own kind of stamp to this thing in my own style. Because again, this is very simplistic, kind of flat, and I like a lot of shading and like detail. I wanted to at least add some of that of my own in here. So I just went back in with this shader tip and used lines of different weight just to denote all the shadows on this mountain here and really give it a lot more of kind of a realistic shape. I also did the same thing to the hand, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm really proud of how that little hand came out. I don't know, hands are tricky anyways. And in the style that this already had, it was already kind of like, you know, two-dimensional. I think I did an all right job. I'm a little proud of that one. Cool, so once I was happy with the artwork, it was time to move on to kind of the fit and finish of this whole thing. Now, normally I would kind of like bevel and seal up the edges, but I thought it would look kind of cool if instead I went through with that shader and actually burnt those edges. I decided I want this thing to look old. Like at this point, it's a couple of 100 years old of a map. I want it to look it. Not only that, but like it was with Thrain in a dungeon, right? It's been through some stuff and I kind of really want it to look like it's been through some stuff. So yeah, I went along those edges, burning them, and then let that shader ride up actually onto the map to add that darkness around the edges. Now to continue to darken those edges up, I actually used a little bit of this light brown water-based stain, which I smeared onto a piece of scrap leather, and I used this little sponge stamp to just pick a little bit up and then take as much off as possible so I can start almost dry brushing it in. What I'm looking for is like a vignette. I want it to go from those darker edges that I kind of burnt in, all the way down to like lighten up until it reaches the middle where the bulk of the art is, and also the part that would be most protected, right? Your hands might like rest on the edges of the map, you're gonna be like holding it open, but that middle is gonna stay relatively untouched. Once I was happy with that little bit of extra wear and tear, I grabbed some resist and just sealed off the entire thing. This is gonna help lock that stain in place and protect it from anything else kind of damaging it or staining the leather any other way, which is great because now we're gonna antique it. The one thing I really love about this milled leather is that it got a lot of texture to it. You can see a lot of wrinkles and folds and everything from the natural skin. I would love to accentuate this and again, add a little bit more age to this piece. So I just spread this dark brown antique paste all over the piece, making sure it gets into all the little crevices. And then I go back over it and wipe all of that away. The resist stops it from dyeing the leather at all, and when you wipe it away, all of the stuff that's like in those cracks and crevices stay put. Again, just adding a lot of like age to the piece. That's why it's called antiquing. All right, so from here, I'm really happy with the overall look of this, but there's one more thing that this map has. Specifically, the moon letters. These are letters that are only visible by the moonlight, specifically the moonlight of when it was written. Like the same type of moon in the same season of when it was written. Anywho, I really wanted to add this effect. I couldn't do it with like the very specific moon. I just couldn't figure that one out. But what I could do is use some of this glow-in-the-dark paint. This stuff dries on mostly clear, but then like loads up on light when it's either exposed to sunlight or if you shine like a little special UV flashlight on it, and then shines after the fact, which is close enough as far as I'm concerned. I think that'd be cool. To apply it, I'm actually using some dotting tools. These are usually used in like clay work or if you're like making nail art or something. But I found I was able to much more precisely put this paint on with this than I was with a brush. And look how cool it looks when I put a light on it. God, I love that. That's so cool. I let it sit by my window for a little bit so I can get some sunlight. And it's hard to see on camera in the dark, but look at it, it's so cool. And though you can kind of see a little shadow of where they are, you really can't read it at all. And you gotta kind of look to even see that much. I love that. I love that feature. Fun note too, all of the runes written on this weren't in like a Dwarvish script, they're in like Futhark. I think it's like Anglo-Saxon, like actual script. Not only that, but it's written in English in Futhark. So you can actually read it once you've kind of like deciphered what all the runes mean, which I love. I love that. That's really cool. And check this out. Look at how good this looks. It looks weathered. It's super true to the original map with my own little spin and shading on it. And it even comes with like working moon letters, which I dig. I love that so much. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be giving this away to one of you. To do this, I'm gonna pick one of you at random from the comments section who answers this question. All right, so during the death list, woke at Mount Gundabad and then found a lake. What is the name of this lake? Google it if you don't know. Everybody should know more lore. Whoever gets the answers, I'm gonna pick from random and then I'll send you this map. Now, I do hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, want to give me some of that like it love, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. In the meantime, keep leveling up, you. You made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that. It's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we could not do this without them. Special shout out to our newest high tier level Patreon member, Clay Akers. And an extra special shout out to our Grandmaster tier Patreons, Wildfox99, Froggy, and Dragon Designs. You are all the map that gets me safely into Erebor. You are my Arkenstone. My mithril shirt, my precious. Seriously though, thank you. I really do appreciate it. If you like what we do here and want to support us, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. Otherwise, you can watch one of these videos here that YouTube thinks you'd like, and that helps out a lot too. All right, I gotta go. There's a dragon that needs slaying. So I'm gonna get some like random bowman who can speak bird to do it for me. I'm still workshopping it. It'll happen though.